Okay, in this lecture, I'm going to be talking to you about line weights and getting into a little bit of shading after you're done some of your warm-up exercises. So now that we've done some of our warm-up exercises, you should be a bit more comfortable in drawing your lines and drawing that cube that we were talking about. So I'm just going to sketch one out real quick here. So I'm just going to do this to illustrate some points. So something that can really pop your drawing off the page, it's just a quick cube, but something that can really pop your drawing off the page is line weights. And let's break this cube down really quick so you can understand what I'm talking about. So we can see from this illustration here that our cube has edges. One edge that's an interior edge here within the overall outside shape, and one edge here, and an edge here, and an edge down here that go outside, and you imagine that there's a back face back here somewhere, but it's unseen. So a line weight can make this drawing really pop off the page by adding some variations in thickness of line, and that's what a line weight is. So the way that you would do this, and I'll show you 3 different variations of line weights that you can do with your pencil. So you want to take the outer shape and give it kind of a double line thickness. So your interior lines, these 3 lines here, are going to stay with that thin weight. But on the outside, we're going to do a double line. And this kind of starts to get to the point where your drawing is achieving a more finished quality. And especially, and I'm not saying that this is the only place where you'll see it, but especially in like IKEA manuals and things like that, you'll see the shapes are outlined in this sort of fashion. Now, one more thing that we can do is we can imagine that our cube is sitting on a table like this. And we can add one more different type of line thickness to give it kind of a grounding quality and to add sort of a shadow without actually shading just yet. So we've got our first thickness. We have our second thickness. And now we're going to add our third thickness to the bottom. And we'll do a triple line. And I'm going to show you here how the corners of an object kind of work in real life. So this is how we imagine the bottom corner of our cube here. Like, this is how you might imagine it, with a perfect edge, and it's sitting perfectly on the tabletop like this. But in real life, everything kind of has a bit of a bevel to it. It's not perfect. It's not perfectly just straight. So it sits kind of like this on the table, actually. And if you zoom in on that, and I'll accentuate that bevel, it starts to pick up a shadow in here. And that's sitting on the tabletop. So we can accentuate that sort of shadow by giving it an extra thickness. And our eye intuitively understands what's happening here. So those are some easy ways that you can really start to pop your image off the page, just by adding line weights. And you can do this with any sort of drawing, even with like things that aren't geometrical. When you start adding those different line thicknesses, it really starts to give it a new quality. Now, something else that you can do is you can use those exercises that we were doing before with the parallel lines and start to do some shading. So shading using only parallel lines is called hatching. And the closer the lines are together, the darker that shade appears to the eye. And you want to keep them in line with your surface. So you want to keep them along with those vertical axes. Or you want to keep them along this axis here. But usually, you don't really want to go diagonally, but you can. It's just a little bit more confusing to the eye. And this is how you determine what direction you want to shade an object as well. So you can keep things looking neat, and you can texture things with your shading properly and make it look professional. So let's say our sun is over here, beaming down on our cube, and this is the darker side. Let's say this one is receiving the most sunlight, so we'll leave it white. We can add a bit wider of hatching on this side. So that appears lighter, darker, and lightest. So I challenge you to pause this video, draw out that cube, and start adding these line thicknesses, and I'll see you in the next video.